Good evening and welcome to Sunset News on this Wednesday evening. As always, we bring you news, community stories, economics, weather, sports, and so much more. I am Glenora Shipura. Starting us off in the news tonight, the Minister of Agriculture, Land Reform, Water and Fisheries, Inge Dhamwani Kamwi, presented a new draft bill on communal and commercial land ownership to Parliament on Tuesday. The 157-page document regulating the management of land in rural areas and commercial farmland, repealing all previous laws on this subject. The draft bill expressly prohibits the ownership and acquisition of agricultural land by foreigners and foreign companies. However, under certain conditions, they may obtain permission from the ministry to use the land on a leasehold basis. The controversial practice of leasing for 99 years will also remain possible. However, Namibian citizens are not allowed to buy or lease farms on behalf of foreigners per proxy. The draft bill provides for the continuation of important existing institutions, including the Land Reform Advisory Commission and the Land Acquisition and Development Fund. The continuation of the Valuation Court, now referred to as the Valuation Tribunal, is also guaranteed. As in the existing law on commercial land, the government reserves the right to appropriate farmland in the public interest in return for fair compensation. The communal land communities will remain in place, but with more specific powers and responsibilities. There are plans to create a fund for communal land development to promote the development and productivity of these areas. The Roads Authority and Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism have come under sharp criticism following the circulation of a letter authorizing the eviction of local Himba and San craftsmen and tour guides residing outside Anderson Gate, Ombiga Gate at Etosha National Park. According to a letter dated the 24th of September 2025 addressed to Nambo Lipinge, Deputy Director of the MEFT-RA, has endorsed a joint operation to remove what it calls unauthorized occupiers from the road reserve near Ombiga Gate. The letter, signed by Shangwa Shapweko Ndeulita, Chief Engineering Technician in the Ocho District, states the specific occupation of road reserve is indeed unauthorized and it contravenes the Roads Ordinance 17 of Section 37(1). Infringements and obstructions on and interference with the proclaimed roads. It further acknowledges that an eviction was initially planned for October 2024. However, it was put on hold due to sensitivity in view of the national election that was approaching. It is now the right time to take action, the letter asserts. The timing of the eviction has raised questions among residents and observers who allege the move is politically motivated and intended to remove visible signs of poverty before an upcoming high-profile visit. According to sources, the Environment Minister, Indileni Daniel, is scheduled to inaugurate the newly constructed Ombiga Gate alongside German Ambassador Dr. Thorsten Hotter, an event expected to draw media attention. A local commentator from the community speaking to Network Media Hub condemned the eviction order as a betrayal of electoral promises. This is a typical example of how politicians use electorates as pawns in Namibia. They courted these communities during the election season, but now that the votes are secured, they are being cast aside. The source added that the underlying motive is to present a sanitized image of the area to foreign dignitaries. The affected groups include Himba and San craftsmen, as well as local tour guides who rely on tourism near the gate for their livelihoods. Many of them have been residing in the area for years, selling handmade crafts and offering cultural tours to visitors. Health and Social Services Minister Dr. Esperance Lovinda has issued a strong call for accountability and urgency as Namibia's healthcare system prepares for Vision April 2026, a government directive aimed at ensuring that state health facilities deliver care equivalent to that of private facilities. Speaking at a feedback session following a nationwide health facility assessment conducted across all 14 regions earlier this month, Luvindao said the ministry's goal was not to create luxury for senior officials, but to restore dignity and quality in public healthcare for the day-to-day patient. The goal of Vision April 2026 is not so that senior government officials can make use of state facilities. It is so that when a patient from Havana or Hakahana walks into a hospital, it must be good enough for anyone, including me, to use that hospital, Luvindao said firmly. She stressed that cleanliness, functionality, and basic patient care should not depend on high-level visits. When I visit some hospitals, I find beds without linen, broken windows covered in tape, and wards that are simply not clean. She said, "Do you really need the minister to come from head office to tell you the hospital is dirty? These are the basics. You don't need a policy or strategy to tell you that a patient should not lie on a bare mattress." The comprehensive facility assessment conducted between the 8th and the 15th of September revealed widespread gaps in hygiene, infrastructure, and resource utilization. Issues, Luvindao said, can no longer be ignored. None of the original reports, however, were available to the media, according to the ministry's spokesperson, Walters Kamaya. According to the minister, Namibia's government allocated 12 billion dollars to the health ministry this year, in addition to an estimated 3 to 4 billion dollars spent annually through the Public Service Medical Aid Scheme, which covers around 100,000 civil servants. Yet, despite this significant investment, many state hospitals remain under-equipped and poorly maintained, with inconsistent standards of care, according to the ministry. Apart from the 12 billion dollars, billions more are spent every year on PSEMAS so that civil servants can access private healthcare, Luvindao said. But what about the majority of Namibians who rely solely on public facilities for equity and fairness? We must ask whether this system serves everyone equally. She noted that Vision April 2026 seeks to address disparities and create an environment where public hospitals are trusted, functional, and fit for purpose, thereby reducing dependence on private care and medical aid schemes. The Employability Improvement Project, a partnership between Japan and Namibia, handed over training equipment to Enana Vocational Training Center today to strengthen vocational education. The project, led by Japan International Cooperation Agency and Namibian University of Science and Technology, combines e-learning with practical training, such as assembling prototype trucks. Now, in its second phase, EIP is expanding to VTCs and companies, with equipment production shifting to Namibia for sustainability. Have a look.
Thank you so much.
Another round of applause, please. The first person
So, like again, in this box, we have the different parts. We continue. We have like the bumpers. We have what we call the insulator. No, instrumental panel. It's the instrumental panel, and then we have also the chairs. So all the different parts that make up that truck, it's all here. And in totality, it's 25 trucks, like I've mentioned, that can be produced by a certain group of trainees. So with that, I think, yeah, and we have the different bolts as well that also make up the part of the screwing and so on and so forth. And yeah, but otherwise, again, like I've mentioned, we have the part list, which will give an idea of what parts are expected, and then also there are different names, yeah, and then of course the manual to support what needs to be done. And in conclusion, like I've mentioned, we have it also on soft copy, so if you
That concludes our top stories from the day. But on the other side of the break, we will take a look at the story of the day. The CEO of Otlever and List ONL Group, Sven Thiam, says that the model food market, previously known as Pick n Pay, is now fully Namibian-owned, and he is proud that a huge amount of the revenue streams will flow back into Namibia. Speaking at the official opening of the Hours Valley Model Food Market in Windhoek today, he added that this allows the company to expand and revamp stores, provide extensive staff training over the coming years, and offer a wider range of products. Thiam reflected on the brand's origins, which started in 1965, when his grandfather was denied a license to sell groceries from his farm and decided to buy his own supermarket. He also praised the store's modern technology, including self-checkouts and trained robots, and hinted at a possible future expansion to Cape Town. Have a look.
A huge amount of the revenue streams will flow back into Namibia, which allows us to expand our stores, well, firstly revamp the stores, and then of course training. A lot of training will have to happen over the next years, and as Graham said, be patient with us. I think there's quite a bit of a range that we have not seen before, and I think what normally happens, people do that panic buy, which I would have done too if I didn't fly out today and tomorrow again. That you just want to make sure you get your 3 or 5 cheeses, that's enough for the next 2 weeks. So that will be happening too. Initially where things are just being bought out, and we've got many of the things that have been put on the shelf and immediately gone. So bear with us on that one, yeah. But just going back to the model brand, it's where it all started. It started with the model supermarket in 1965, when the old man, my grandfather, didn't get a license to sell his groceries from the farm or the vegetables, and he just went ahead and bought his own supermarket, right? And that is, sometimes we hear in Namibia, this complain and blame PTY Limited, where everybody blames someone else. I think we just took it into our hands and created something of our own again, and that's what.
On the other side of the break, we will be taking a look at our economic news. Starting us off would be the Namibian government, which is still weighing whether to acquire shares in De Beers. As Anglo-American presses ahead with the sale of its 85% stake in the global diamond giant. The decision comes at a critical moment, with Botswana, Angola and other international players signaling their intent to move quickly in the race for ownership. Executive Director in the Ministry of Industries, Mines and Energy, Moses Pakote, told Network Media Hub that discussions remain ongoing at senior levels of government. He noted that the ministry is fully aware of developments, including Angola's expression of interest in acquiring a stake, but stressed that the government is taking a cautious approach. The government will still deliberate on what we have, what is unfolding, and what that means for Namibia. I think that is the best way to put it. Yes, the government is considering something in that regard, he said, adding that authorities are closely monitoring the regional landscape before deciding on the way forward. Anglo-American confirmed earlier this year that it would divest from De Beers as part of a sweeping restructuring drive. The move, driven by a strategy to focus on copper, iron ore and crop nutrients, has opened the door for a range of buyers, from private equity groups to state entities. Botswana, which already owns 15% of De Beers, has made clear it intends to expand its stake, while Angola has openly expressed interest in forming a regional consortium. Indian polishing groups and European investors are also reported to be circling. Botswana's position has been forceful, with President Duma Boko warning that his country will not accept any deal that sidelines its interests, and even threatening to nationalize mines if necessary. Namibia, in contrast, has never held equity in De Beers itself, though it maintains an extensive partnership with the company. Currently, the government of the Republic of Namibia and De Beers each hold 50% shares in Namdeb Holdings Proprietary Limited, under which Namdeb Mining and Debmarine Namibia operate. The two also share equal ownership in the Namibia Diamond Trading Company. While the structure has made Namdeb one of the country's biggest revenue contributors, it does not grant Namibia influence over De Beers' global strategy. A confidential policy seen by Network Media Hub warns that Namibia cannot afford to remain a spectator while its neighbors act decisively. It argues that De Beers' ownership structure is undergoing its most dramatic shift in decades and that Namibia risks being left out of strategic decision-making if it does not secure a stake. Next up, take a look at our financial indicators. The Namibian dollar trades against the British pound at 23.20, against the euro at 20.25, against the US dollar at 17.26. 2 Namibian dollars and 42 cents gets you 1 Chinese yuan. On the commodities market, gold went up while copper, platinum, and Brent crude oil went down. Brent crude oil trading at 0.88%, going for $66.03 per barrel. Starting us off in international news, South African opposition leader Julius Malema was today found guilty of breaking firearm laws in a 2018 incident where he was filmed firing a rifle at a political rally. The politician, who leads the opposition party Economic Freedom Fighters, was charged with contravening the Firearms Control Act. His then bodyguard, Adrian Snyman, who was alleged to have given Malema the rifle, was also charged but was found not guilty. Malema said this proved the magistrate was racist because Snyman is white. The video of Malema firing the weapon at his party's 5th anniversary in the Eastern Cape province went viral in 2018. An Afrikaner lobby group, AfriForum, brought criminal charges against him. In his defense, Malema claimed that the firearm in the video was a toy gun, but Magistrate Twained Olivier rejected this. Malema told his supporters outside the East London Magistrates Court that he would appeal the verdict all the way to the Constitutional Court. Malema could face up to 15 years in prison, but as there is no minimum sentence, the magistrate may be more lenient. His sentencing has been set for January the 23rd next year. Malema founded the Economic Freedom Fighters, South Africa's 4th biggest political party, which won 9% of the electoral vote in general elections last year. He remains a divisive figure in South African politics, especially over his party's policies, which include the expropriation of white-owned land without compensation and the nationalization of mines and banks. He appeared in a video shown by the US President Donald Trump during a tense meeting with South African President Cyril Ramaphosa this year. Trump has falsely claimed that there is an ongoing white genocide in South Africa. In our next story, Kenyan police have offered a reward of 1 million shillings for information leading to the arrest of suspected serial killer Collins Jumaisky Kalusha more than a year after he escaped from their custody. Kalusha was the prime suspect in the murder of more than 40 women whose mutilated bodies were discovered in a disused quarry that became a dump site in the capital, Nairobi. Shortly after his arrest, he escaped from custody along with 12 others after reportedly cutting through a wire mesh roof and scaling a perimeter wall. It caused outrage, and police are facing a renewed backlash over their failure to hunt down Kalusha more than a year later. Many Kenyans have questioned how he could have escaped on the 20th of August 2024 from what is regarded as one of the most secure police stations located near the U.S. Embassy and the UN offices in the capital. That concludes our international news. We now dive into the weather predictions for tomorrow. The capital city can expect a minimum of 17 degrees Celsius and a maximum of 31 degrees Celsius with sunny weather conditions, while Katima Mulilo can also expect sunny weather conditions with a minimum of 20 degrees Celsius and a maximum of 35 degrees Celsius. Oranjemund can expect a minimum of 14 and a maximum of 20 degrees Celsius with sunny weather conditions, while Swakopmund can expect a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 15 degrees Celsius with partly cloudy conditions. We now hand over to the sports desk with the sports news.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, and starting off with soccer news first. It's from the Champions League. Games played on Tuesday, and it was the Turkish club Galatasaray that beat Liverpool. That was by 1-0. The game played in Turkey, and it was Liverpool that lost their second consecutive game, not in this competition. They also lost in the English Premier League the past weekend against Crystal Palace. They do have a risk to maybe even lose 3 games in a row, because they have a tough assignment this coming weekend in the English Premier League. They have a away game against Chelsea. Other results from the Champions League played on Tuesday was it's Real Madrid that beat Qariat by 5-0. Then Atletico that beat Frankfurt by 5-1. It's Chelsea that's too strong for Benfica, 1-0. And Marseille beat Ajax by 4-0. Inter Milan also beating Slavia Prague by 3-0. So that is some of the Champions League results. On to cricket news next. It is the World Cup Women's 50-over competition that started. Opening game, India played against Sri Lanka. India beating Sri Lanka by 59 runs. It was India that scored 269 for the loss of 8 in their 50 overs, and then bowled out Sri Lanka for 211. The game on Wednesday will be Australia that play against New Zealand, and South Africa's first game will be on Friday, a tough game against England. And to close off today's international sports news, it is rugby news. It is Australian prop, that is James Slipper, that announced that he will retire after this Saturday's game against the All Blacks in Perth. That is a rugby championship game. It was Slipper that recently played his 150th game for the Australians, and he also played in 4 World Cups. He's 36 years old, so Saturday's game will be the last game of the round-robin games in the rugby championship. The Springboks also play on Saturday against Argentina. So that's international sports news for today. I hope you have a great sport day. We talk international sport again tomorrow. Goodbye.
That was Ari Hohad with the sports news. And with that, we've come to the end of the broadcast. Do make sure you join Sunset News on Facebook, on all the NMH platforms on weekdays, as well as on our website, oneup2.com. From me, Glenora Shipura. Until next time.